Hey, welcome back to my art space. So you finished the sketching of the right side of that image. Remember that image that we were looking at from Pixabay a while ago, it seems like. You finished the right side. Yay! And I hope that you finished the left side, or at least the second and third floor. We haven't really touched the cafe part on the left side. But yay, you did that too. And I'm so excited that you joined me for this journey and that you have done that much. That's a huge accomplishment. So I'm hoping you're feeling a little more confident in your sketching abilities, and that if you have a image that makes you think 2-point perspective, like a photo reference image, that you might be able to set up your drawing without thinking, how do I do this? Because that's my goal, is to help you set up your artwork and feel more confident and more able to achieve what you want to with art. So you have this sketch and it's looking pretty good, but the semi-annoying thing is it's just a sketch. And you really would like it to be a finished piece of artwork. So I'm going to teach you how to take that sketch and turn it into a finished piece of artwork through your shading. It's the addition of those lights and darks and all that wonderful value that will help your artwork look its very best. And it's absolutely my favorite part of art. And I'm so excited that you're here with me because I can't wait to show you how to do this, and I hope you really enjoy the process. So sit back, relax, get your drawing pencil, your paper, and let's get started on learning how to shade our drawing. So yes, buckle your seatbelts. We are in for part 3 of this. Again, here's our reference image in case you forgot. The reference image came from Pixabay.com, and this is what your drawing should look like right now at this point, or at least something similar. And we are going to get started with shading. Right now I am just laying down a quick layer of graphite. It's actually really light, and unfortunately you can't really see it on the camera, but I promise I am shading with my just regular HB or number 2 pencil right now and putting in a quick layer of graphite for the sky. I noticed that in our reference image that our sky was a light gray, so I wanted to go ahead and tone the sky a little bit. And then I use a tissue to make it look nice and smooth. Since it's a really smooth looking sky, you can't really tell any differentiation between clouds or anything like that. I find tissue is really great for this because it gives it a really nice light appearance. It's actually removing some of the graphite, and that's what I was going for. I did want to have it slightly shaded because to me the reference image does not look like a white sky, and I think a white sky would look more unnatural. But if you notice right there, I did show you there was a spot in my drawing where the graphite had shown up darker, and what had happened was I think some of the oil from my finger whenever I was drawing at one point had gotten on the drawing paper. That is common actually, and you just take a little eraser and erase it, and then you can rub back over it and it'll hopefully take care of that spot. Sometimes it remains a little bit, and that's unfortunate. As you can see right now, I realized that I forgot the last little section back there behind our left side. There was like another small building that was starting, and I just put in a little line that went to our vanishing point there, hopefully to define the building back there, because I'm going to try to shade this as much as possible, working from left to right because I am right-handed. So if you are left-handed and following this video, unfortunately you will get a bit more graphite on your hand than what you would really want to. And I would suggest in future drawings that if you can, you work from right to left if you're left-handed. And if you're right-handed, work from left to right. That way you get the minimal amount of graphite on your hand. So as you can see, I put in that building that is behind this building that we're actually drawing, just a little tiny snippet of the building that is behind. And then there's a window on there, and you can see that window. Sorry, I'm covering it right now with my eraser. You can see the window I'm putting in, and I'm putting in the line that defines like the corner of that building, which is a vertical line to define the corner of that building. And it has a window and then the vertical line. Now the next thing that I'm going to start shading is that tree right there in front. Sorry, it's not really in front. I guess it would be the whole way to the left. There is a tree. And what I'm doing is I'm making like little tiny marks, some lighter, some darker, repetitively over and over again, and I'll do that over the whole tree. And what you will tend to see is that it starts looking like a tree. And it's just a matter of practicing this. Once you start it, just kind of you lightly scribble a little bit light and then press a little bit harder and make it dark. After we finish with that tree, I jump over to that farthest building back on the left side, and I'm just starting to shade what I see there. It is fairly dark in color, and I shade all around the window because the window is going to look a little bit different than the building itself. As I'm shading around that window, I look over at that tree and I notice I would like to add a bit more shading to it. Trees are just not as consistent with their values as, say, a brick wall. And so I often look at a tree, shade it, go over and shade something else, come back, shade the tree some, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. In the end, you want to be happy with what you have, and you don't want to think later when you look at it, man, I should have added some more value to that tree. And so I tend to do that. I'll look at something and be shading it, and then you're kind of comparing values the entire time, and once you notice the value doesn't look quite right on that, you might jump over and start shading it in a different way or adding deeper values or darker values. Speaking of darker values, I just pulled out my ebony pencil that I just showed you, and I'm using that to work on the window of that building because I noticed that the window was fairly dark, and back in behind that tree I just think that this building is appearing quite shadowed. And so if you don't have an ebony pencil, a really dark pencil like a 6B or 8B, maybe 9B, one of those would be about as dark as what you're going to get. But I love these graphite free, sorry, not graphite free, completely wrong. Wood-free pencils. They're just solid pieces of graphite, and they're in ebony. And I think I forget the brand right now, but if you see them, they are amazing, and you should definitely use one. I think you'll like it a lot. You have to be a little careful when sharpening it, though. But anyways, I continue to add a bit of value to that building back there underneath that tree. Like I said, the more time that you spend comparing values, the more you will realize that a lot of your values need to be a lot deeper and darker. And I've heard many people say, and I've read it in books, that people who feel not confident in their shading and value adding experience will often keep their values far too light. And you can tell the inexperienced artist from the experienced artist because of their use of values. So whether you are inexperienced or experienced, trick everyone and add deep value. I am now starting with the decorative trim on our left side of our building there, and it's on the part that is behind the alcove. I'm just starting with that first. I did want to mention just a moment ago you saw me using the eraser of this regular HB number 2 pencil. And I wasn't actually erasing with it, but instead trying to just smush the graphite around a little bit and make it a little bit smoother of an appearance on that building back there, because as things go away from us in 2-point and 1-point perspective drawings, you will lose the details of it. And so brick buildings no longer look like a rough brick, but a lot more smooth. So that's what I was doing with that. The eraser on this particular pencil is pretty horrible, and pretty much just smudges any type of graphite that I am trying to erase. So that's the way I was using it. If you do not have an eraser that is as terrible as mine, you can use the tissue like I was using to just smudge the sky a little bit. You could use a blending stump or blending tortillon, or in all else fails, you can use your finger. The problem is sometimes your finger is not small enough. That back section of the decorative trim is definitely bowed, or there may be something wrong with the roof, or the appearance of it makes it look like it has some type of not straight line going on. And so you can see that depicted in my shading, and that's why it's not straight at the back end there, because if you look at the reference image, you will hopefully it will appear the same way to you as it did to me. Anyways, what I'm doing right now is I'm going underneath the windows and putting in a little mark, because I noticed on the reference image that the bottom part of those bottom windows has a little lighter section as well. So I was just adding a quick line there, and I was connecting to my vanishing point with that. And now I'm back to adding some value to that decorative trim, kind of like the second part of the back end of that building. There's a line there, and it might be like a wire or something like that that kind of divides that decorative trim at the back end of the building into two separate sections. So I was first working on the back part of that section, and now I'm working on the little bit more forward part of that section. And once you're finished with the decorative trim, the very next area to start shading is the building itself. And I'm laying in a quick layer of value here. And the goal is to try to get it as even as possible, although you will see that I will have some darker sections at first, and then what I end up doing is I'll go back over those darker sections, and you won't notice the difference, hopefully. With it being a brick wall, you don't want to do too much smudging. I think smudging should be reserved for times that you absolutely need it. And so in my artwork, I try not to include a ton of smudging unless it is something that, like the rough lines, they're not adding to it. So you want to make sure that you're, I guess you could almost call it a coloring type of motion, that you are coloring nice and neat as you are completing your shading. So I always, like I said, I like to start out with a little bit lighter and then kind of build up the values as I go. And the reason for that is because of any time I need to erase, if the value is super dark, it's really hard to erase it. So as you can see, again, I'm laying down a really nice, trying to keep it even value there, and then I go back over it and I'm adding a second layer to it, and I'll go back over it a third time, and then I finally get the value that I would like. And if you notice, I am checking lines the whole time I'm going along, just making sure, did I get this right? Did I have everything right? Some artists may not do this. Some may draw it and just feel super comfortable and confident in what they have done. I am constantly looking at the reference image and back to what I've drawn, into the reference image and back to what I've drawn, and constantly thinking, I could do this to improve it, and I want to do this to improve it. So that's just me. I tend to, when I sketch things, draw things a little bit looser and rougher, and then when I'm going through and I'm shading, I might notice something that I left out or did not fully finish because I wanted to move faster with the sketching part. I am going back over again with another layer on this. You are putting the graphite down in layers, and it will cover the surface in the way that you need it to, and you will get a much richer, much fuller image in the end, and you will be so excited, and it will not look rushed. People who tend to scribble when they draw, they sometimes have trouble getting their values to be what they want it to be. And you don't have to be that scribbler. Here, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Coloring is something that you can teach yourself to be better at, and this is essentially a version of coloring. Ultimately, just do away with any old habits and just pick up the new ones and go ahead and shade as neatly as you can and lay down layer after layer of value to build this drawing into what you want it to be. Now, you are not going to believe this, but after I finished this little section here, my camera turned off. And so I did the alcove and the front part of that building and realized my camera turned off. I didn't do the right side. I'm just talking about the left side. So I wanted to talk to you for a moment about what you need to do. The alcove is a little bit lighter than the brick itself, and it had some vertical lines on it. And then you can also see the detail on the decorative trim a bit more. I had started putting in little tiny bricks. They're just going to be sporadic there, but I got so upset that my camera had turned off. I wanted to stop right away and talk to you about what to do. Also, the trim on that alcove is a bit darker than the trim on the regular building. So my camera's working and I'm ready to shade the rest of this left side. So let's kick it into high gear and you can see what the rest of this looks like. It's just going to be a time lapse from here on out. That way you do not have to listen to each little thing that I'm saying. Just watch what I'm doing and then try to mimic that on your own building.
Did you ever think you'd find me here? Standing up after all these years, quiet, alone, and afraid. That's how I spend my days, wondering if you were really there. Circumstances had me down, but I could count on you to always be around. 'Cause in your sight in your hands. Then I heard you went away. I knew it had to come someday. But even though you are not here, still strong I believe. 'Cause I'm in good hands with who you left me with. Even though you're not around, faith, hope, and love are always found in God's hands. I won't cry anymore. I won't go left or right when you're in my sight in God's hands. Pain. Just remember when you take sunshine, sometimes you gotta take the rain. But no, you'll never go a day without me in my hands. You won't cry. Sight in my hands, yeah, in my hands. You won't cry anymore. You won't go left or right when you're in my sight in my hands, yeah, in my hands, in my
heart is a balloon, shoots up through the stony ground. There's no room no space to rent in this town. You're out of luck, and the reason that you at first light and see the bird with a leaf in her mouth. After the flood, all the colors came out. It was a beautiful day. Don't let it get away. Beautiful
Oh, the night makes you a star and it holds you cold in its arms. You're the one to whom nobody verses I love you unless you say it first. So you lie there holding your breath, and it's strange how soon you forget that you're like stars. They only show up when it's dark, 'cause they don't know their worth. And I think you need to stop following misery's lead. Shine away, shine away, shine away. Isn't it time you got over how fragile you are? We're all waiting on your supernova. Is that who you are? And you've only begun to shine. There are times when the poets and porn stars align, and you won't know who to believe in. Well, that's a good time to be leaving. it's romantic, he's crazy, but you knew that before. And I think you need to stop following misery's lead. Shine